Hello and welcome to a new video. Today on Mastering SQL, we will be looking at different ways of removing all the data from a table. Even some seasoned database admins sometimes have trouble choosing the right way to delete data from their tables, either because they like cutting corners or simply because they ignore the implications. Basically, there are three ways of removing the entire contents of a table in SQL: delete, drop table, and truncate table. Each of these three statements will erase all the data from a table, but they differ in how they do it. These differences can usually be overlooked if the table is relatively small with few indexes, but for complicated and large databases, choosing the inappropriate data removal method can be computationally costly. Let's start with delete. Delete allows us to remove selected rows from a given table. Typically, we use the where clause to select the rows we want to delete, just like this. But we can actually omit the where clause, and delete then will simply remove all the rows from a given table, just like this. Delete is the most commonly used and generic way of, well, surprise here, deleting data. Sometimes it may not be the most efficient way of doing this though. It is designed to selectively delete rows from a given table. You can use complex selection criteria with the where clause, and this makes delete a very flexible data removal method. But this flexibility comes with a cost. When you execute a delete statement, you invoke a row-by-row processing to review and update all indexes associated with the table and activating the necessary triggers to protect the logical integrity of the database. Even when you do not specify any selection criteria or a where clause to select which rows to be deleted, the database still goes over each row and checks the indexes and the dependencies to protect the database. Now, there is nothing wrong with this procedure. In fact, it is the right way to delete rows most of the time. However, row-by-row processing means that if you are deleting a very big table with lots of indexes, lots of dependencies down the database, and your database is very complex, or maybe it's a huge database with millions of rows, dozens of tables, very complicated foreign key assignments, and child table dependencies, then delete is not going to be the best way to simply remove a table. On the other hand, if you have a small table on a small database, you can actually ignore the computational cost, particularly if you are not really worried about performance at all. Now, obviously, if your goal is not to delete the entire table, but just select rows to be deleted, then you have no choice but to use the delete statement anyway. Okay, so to recap, delete. Delete removes all data from a table, and it can be rolled back until the next explicit or implicit commit statement. Delete statements can be computationally expensive, and perhaps more importantly, and this is actually important, delete is going to preserve the table definitions. So you delete a table, the table's structure definition is going to be preserved. So you can go back and repopulate the table without recreating it. All right. Perhaps you hate a table so much that you want to get rid of it. You want to get rid of it quickly, you want to get rid of it permanently, then you want to use drop table statement. We just simply use drop table name. Drop table doesn't take any other arguments. Drop table will remove the table permanently, and it cannot be rolled back. When you drop a table, it will delete all the data from the table, and it will also get rid of the table definitions. The table structure will be lost. If you end up needing to bring back the table, you must then create the table definition and then repopulate the table from scratch. Generally, you must use drop table only in situations when you know that you will not need to bring it back. Prematurely dropping a table, especially if you are dealing with a complex database structure, might cost you extra time if you end up recreating the table. On the other hand, sometimes the needs may change so significantly that preserving the table structure and updating it, amending it, may not be really practical. In those situations, you might simply drop the table, even if you know that you will need something similar, a table that is very similar to the one you're dropping. You might actually end up using drop table because you think it will be easier just to recreate the table anyway. All right. So we have seen two sort of extreme ways of removing data. On the one hand, we have the delete, which checks every row and tries to protect the database by looking at dependencies and indexes. And on the other extreme, we have the drop table, which simply erases the table from existence with all its data and its definition and structure. But sometimes we know that we don't need the data in a table. Maybe data is corrupted. Maybe it is entered in an incorrect way. Maybe when you are entering the data to a table from an Excel or text file, lines, rows are scrambled in a way, but you like the structure of the table and you know that you will need it in the future, or you just know your manager well and that dropping a table is something that your supervisor wants it done, but you know that they might actually want to bring it back at some point, so you want to preserve the table. If you find yourself in this situation, we can use a middle ground between delete and drop. We can simply truncate the table. We use the command statement very simply: truncate table name. Truncate is going to do several things. It will remove all the data from a table, but it will keep the index structure and the dependencies intact. It is a DDL statement. It's considered a data definition statement. Therefore, it cannot be rolled back. Once you execute a truncate table statement, it will initiate an implicit commit. All right. We have seen the three ways of removing data from tables. So let's summarize what we know and just give you a quick notes of when to use them best. So use delete if database is relatively simple and table small. Use drop if you know you will not need the table again, or table is simple enough that you can recreate it easily again. And use truncate if you do not need the data now, but might need to repopulate it later, or you worry about resources that delete might require in a complex, huge database. Okay. So this concludes our video today. If you liked what you've seen, give this video a thumbs up. If not, thumbs down is there too. If you want to see videos like this, subscribe to the channel. We can always use more subscribers. And if you would like to help the channel even further, you can share this video. As always, thank you for watching and see you on the next video.